Hey guys, and welcome to Tnashi's Movie Corner. Today we will be doing another animated matchup between Rise of the Guardians and The Incredibles. Rise of the Guardians, which came out in 2012, and The Incredibles, which came out in 2004. When we are judging this, we go by plot, main character, side characters, songs, humor, villain/antagonist, cast, romance, action, themes, and memorability. So let's get started, and we'll go straight to the plot here. For plot, we gave it to Rise of the Guardians. Essentially, it's about kind of Jack Frost, who gets put in the situation where he's supposed to be, kind of brought over to be a part of the Guardians and to face off against the villain Pitch. And help the Guardians triumph over that. But through that, you get to see some of his backstory and everything, and you get to see him he has to make a lot of choices that he didn't have to make before, when he was just carefree and everything. And there's a lot of kind of twists and turns on getting to that end fight there. Whereas with the Incredibles, you got a guy who, is part of this family, his family life. He used to be a hero, and he's trying to go back to it, and he gets kind of set up in this trap by the villain, and then his family kind of goes in to try to rescue him, which is great, but there's just not as much there to it, so I felt like Rise of the Guardians did better there. Main character, we also gave it to Rise of the Guardians. Big reason is you really see a lot with Jack Frost. You see his growth throughout the movie. Again, you see his backstory, so you see a lot of, you see what got him to this point and what his character truly is, and why his character kind of works that way, and you can really identify him. Where Mr. Incredible, as the main character, is fine, but there's just not that much to identify with there. And he's a superhero, but then Jack Frost is also going to be a guardian, so there is some kind of outlandish kind of property to it, but I just think Jack Frost works. I think Jack Frost works better overall. So side characters we gave to the Incredibles, mostly because you have the family dynamic, and we think the family as a whole is pretty strong, and the family aspect works a lot better than the other Guardians aspect, because we didn't really understand much of where they were coming from or what was really motivating them outside of the obvious thing. Whereas the Incredibles, they actually have a lot of growth as individuals, and then as a family they grow, and we feel like they just they work better as a group than Guardians does. Whereas Guardians was focused more on Jack Frost, and that's fine. Like, he was great for that category, but it causes the Guardians themselves to kind of lose out a little bit. So for songs, we gave to Rise of the Guardians. Realistically, Incredibles didn't have songs; they had a soundtrack, and soundtracks, as a category, is very hard to really pin down. That really goes more to preference. So for songs, Rise of the Guardians did have a couple songs, so they kind of just auto-win that one. Humor, we went to Incredibles. You have some humor between the families. You got some humors between him and the villain, Syndrome, our buddy. So you do have kind of those that work, but you also have the kind of funny bit between Edna, I think is what her name was, and just her dealing with the family and her dealing with Mr. Incredible. So those work overall better. And Rise of the Guardians is more of a darker, almost toned movie, so there's not as many light, humorous moments in it. For villain, we did give to Rise of the Guardians. I personally like Syndrome a lot, and I like how he kind of came about and everything, but Pitch was a much more intimidating villain that took a little bit of thinking to get around, and he was always trying to promote himself as being a little just in what he did, and that was kind of interesting because you did see a little bit of what he was coming from. Even if you didn't get quite his backstory, you did see a little bit of what he was coming from. So it kind of worked out that way. And he does look cooler, obviously. Like I said, he's got kind of the intimidating factor there with how he looks and what his powers are and everything, and how he goes about trying to bring himself to power. So that all works out quite well. Cast we gave to Incredibles, and this is interesting because looking at the cast for Rise of the Guardians, we have Chris Pine, Alec Baldwin, Jude Law, Isla Fisher, Hugh Jackman. For those are just some of them, but those are quite noticeable names here. For Incredibles, you have Jason Lee, you have Samuel L. Jackson, you have Craig T. Nelson, but there may be a couple others, but that's really it. So really this didn't go and this usually doesn't go. I just thought it was kind of interesting note here. There's a lot more famous people actor-wise in Rise of the Guardians, but the voices for some of them in Incredibles just fit the characters so much better that if you change the characters, if you change their voices for the characters in another movie, it would be really noticeable, and you'd miss something out of the characters because of what's being brought to them by the performances. So that kind of went to Incredibles for that. Romance went to Incredibles. Again, Rise of the Guardians didn't have any, and Incredibles does, because you have Elastigirl and you have Mr. Incredible. And it's not just about the building of the romance, it's just kind of the maintaining of it. So even though they're married early in the movie, you do see how their relationship continues to grow and be affected by everything. Action we gave to Rise of the Guardians. They both had definitely present action. Rise of the Guardians, we just felt the visual appeal of it was better than Incredibles was, and you do still have the group dynamics, and you have the main character and everything, so you do have all the battles and conflicts that you get in the Incredibles, but visually it's just more appealing. So that's why we gave it to Rise of the Guardians. Themes we gave to Incredibles. Themes just worked a lot better with Incredibles, kind of about family and dealing with family and growth and not giving up on what you want out of life and everything, and at the same time kind of the evolution of the villain and how the villain came about and all that. And so we think all those worked really well. And memorability we gave to Rise of the Guardians because Jack Frost has quite an interesting backstory, and you do get that showcased quite a bit in this movie, and it's very memorable what happens to him. And there's some memorable scenes too with one of the earlier battles with Pitch and everything, and again the kind of end battle and how Pitch loses and all that, but it stands out very, very well. So I think overall just Guardians has a few more moments to it than Incredibles does. But yet again, we've come to that point now where we've come to the end of the categories here. And from a 6-5 vote, Rise of the Guardians actually beats out Incredibles. Another matchup that I didn't quite see this panning out. I thought initially that Incredibles would win. Just from my personal taste, I prefer Incredibles. But, from the categories that we've gone with, it seems that Rise of the Guardians ends up winning it. So, sometimes that's how it works out. But anyway, so that concludes another matchup. Let me know down in the comments. Do you agree with that? Do you think The Incredibles should have won? Or which movie do you prefer? And also, guys, if you like this video, please check out my other ones and actually click the link here, the little like button here. Let me know that you enjoyed it. And hopefully you subscribe to my channel. But anyway, guys, appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and peace.